Good evening. This is Making the Case. I'm Yodit Tewolde. The breakout star of a popular network TV drama took the stand today in a trial centered around what some thought was a high-profile hate crime and others soon came to believe was an elaborate hoax. Former Empire star Jussie Smollett said he was attacked by two men who doused him with bleach, put a rope around his neck, and hurled racial and homophobic slurs. But prosecutors and their two-star witnesses say that's not what happened. Two brothers took the stand last week and testified that they were hired by the actor to stage the whole thing. Smollett faces 6 counts of felony disorderly conduct for lying to police. Here to help me unpack all of this are my legal experts, Paul Henderson, a veteran prosecutor and BNC's legal contributor. Also with us, criminal defense attorney David Otunga. Welcome, fellas. All right, let's get in there. All right, defendants have a right not to take the stand, and a jury can't hold that against them for exercising that right. And there are a lot of reasons why a defendant shouldn't take the stand. So when they do, it's definitely a gamble. But in this case, I don't think Jussie had a choice. This is a classic he said case. And without Jussie's side of the story and his clear denials of the prosecution's theory, that would make it easier for the jury to find the Osendero brothers' testimony more credible. Paul, your thoughts?
You are exactly correct in the analysis, and I will say that that weight is broader here because we're talking about celebrity, and there is an element of expectation in this case. I would imagine every juror there wants to hear from Jussie. And here's the thing. So when someone is testifying, credibility and bias are always an issue, and that's what the jury wants to hear about. Not just from the prosecution witnesses and the foundation that they laid about the allegations, but from Jussie himself. And he's either going to deflate it or shine the light on the credibility of it or totally eviscerate their case by his testimony. And to me, I'm waiting to lean in to see and hear how he delivers. He's a trained actor. I want to hear his emotional and clear about what he did. I want to hear and see it too. I would imagine that expectation is heightened though, because he's a celebrity. In addition to him having to take the stand to address the concerns that are being raised from the defense or raised from the prosecution of this case.
Excellent point. I didn't even think about him being an actor and being on that stand. David, you're an actor. Your thoughts on the defense's decision to put an actor on the stand?
Well, I think in this case, you had to. Just as Paul said, everybody is expecting Jussie to take the stand. Those jurors want to see him on the stand. They want to look in his eyes and see if they believe him and believe the story. But there is that element of him being an actor, a very good actor. So I'm certain that's going to cross the minds of the jurors too, is whether or not they can believe him. Is he being truly authentic, or is this just a great performance from a trained actor? But the other part of this is, I mean, the Osendero brothers got up, they told their side of the story. You need Jussie to take the stand to refute this because it already looks bad. And I mean, on the court of public opinion, on the streets, people kind of see Jussie as guilty already because this story is so bizarre. We want it to make sense. Make it make sense, Jussie. Take the stand and make this make sense for all of us, please.
Absolutely. Okay, so under direct examination by the defense, Smollett testified that he hired one of the brothers, Bola, as his trainer, which is what that $3,500 payment was for. The brothers, however, said that was payment to carry out the fake attack. So we're going to take this piece by piece. Paul, believable?
It could be believable. This is, again, why Jussie, I think, needs to take the stand and show, like, hey, here's my records for going to the gym. Here's the number of times that he was coming over. There are things that he can say and present that would validate that statement and would validate his perspective, not the least of which he still has to address, or I would try to get in there as much as possible, if there were repercussions or a deal that had been made to get the testimony from those brothers in the first place. Had they been on probation or parole? Did they have coordination with law enforcement independent of testifying or pending charges that they may have been charged with? All of these are factors that undermine their credibility, but I think in order to hit it home, you're still going to need to testify to give some validation to your narrative that undermines the allegation from prosecution and from these two witnesses that are testifying against you. I think a trained actor would and should be able to do that fairly well you know as well as I do, Yodit, grooming someone and preparing them to get on the stand in preparation for litigation and in preparation for trial is a little bit different when you have someone like a trained actor that can take those directions very well and deliver credibly to an audience like a jury. And so I think he's got to take the stand. I think there are some holes in the prosecution's case that can be taken advantage of by a good witness, and Jussie has to be that witness.
All right, so it was believable. Okay, I can buy that the $3,500 was for training and a meal plan. Okay, cool. Moving on. David, there was also a text message that the jury saw last week that Jussie sent to Bola referencing help with something, quote, on the low, right? The brothers say that was referring to the hoax. Today, Smollett said it was for an illegal weight loss steroid that could only be found in Nigeria. Now, the brothers are from Nigeria. How Smollett knew about this illegal drug, is it a coincidence? How are these different accounts playing with the jury? Is that believable?
It's hard to say. When I look at this and it says they want to meet to talk about something on the low, obviously this is something secretive and that you can't put in text. So it needs to be on the low. I don't know if an herbal supplement or steroid from Nigeria, I don't know about that, if I believe that, honestly. I think this is more to plan something out. So I tend to side with the brothers on this because it seemed like there was going to be more involved. Because, I mean, there's other ways he could have said it, like, hey, what about that medication? I need to talk to you about that medication from Nigeria. And not say that it was an illegal drug. So I tend to think this leans towards the hoax.
Paul, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it could be. You never know. I mean, he's got a story that he's selling, and I look forward. I want to know about the weight secret loss that's coming from Nigeria. I mean, he's got really sick, and in the gym, I leaned in. What was the secret? Paid for it. What was the secret? Did you ever get the secret? Did they not do it? I mean, that's part of the narrative that he's trying to sell to us. I mean, when he took the stand, what he wants us to believe is that these brothers are doing their own thing. They took the money and spun it out of control and are doing and saying whatever. And what's behind that is whatever's behind it. But what's not behind it is that he was the mastermind of this plan. And does it seem credible to me? Well, I don't know. I know trainers, they all have a lot of things interesting to tell me about what I should be doing and what's going on. Some legal, some not legal. It is what it is. $3,500, if that gets you a secret to lose some weight, hey, if I'm on that jury, I'm going to lean in too. Well, what was the secret? What did you get for it? I wish he had continued that part of it to tell us what the magical herbs were. Was it lemonade and cayenne? Did he get an onion? I don't know, but that's what I want to see. I wanted to do some of that cross-examination to get a little more out of it, to figure out not just the credibility, but the bias as well, and to figure out if there's something else that the rest of us need to know while we're listening in this trial.
Well, Smollett told the jury, and this is what's so surprising to me. Smollett told the jury that there was never a discussion about planning a staged hate attack with either brother, that his face was one too valuable for him to willingly put in danger. Okay, so he said, quote, "My character was a superstar, a pop star, a beloved GQ whatever. It was very important that I look like a black Cary Grant, not be down." And that's in reference to his role on Empire. Now, again, this makes sense, yes, but if he actually did get attacked by a racist, homophobic, MAGA supporter, he wouldn't worry about that role on Empire anymore because he would have gotten the attention, thus opportunities he was looking for. David.
Well, I also am a professional wrestler, and I can tell you right now, I could have a full-on match in front of you. You punched in my face, kicked in my face, hit with a steel chair, and then you would look at me, and I would still look just like this. Because I am very well trained in that performance art. And Jussie being an actor, I mean, it isn't necessarily professional wrestling, but, from time to time, I'm sure he's been involved in some stunts or fake fighting or whatever. However, it's very, if you're trained in that, you can totally have a staged fight or, an actual wrestling match and still come out unscathed. Now, the only thing is make sure that you're in front of the camera. That's the other thing.
All right, guys, I'm running up on a break, but we'll be right back with more from my panel and on the Smollett trial. This is Making the Case. Former Empire star Jussie Smollett took the stand in his trial for disorderly conduct today and emphatically said there was no hoax. More on his testimony about that alleged hate crime attack in Chicago with my legal experts, BNC's legal contributor Paul Henderson and criminal defense attorney David Otunga. All right, guys, Smollett testified that he had a sexual relationship with one of the two brothers involved. He said he met up with Bola on several occasions to do drugs and that the two got intimate at a local bathhouse. When asked about this on cross-examination, Bola said it never happened last week. Now, when one says up, the other says down. When one says right, the other says left. Somebody is lying. Should the jury assess credibility based on who has more to lose or gain from all of this? Paul?
Absolutely. And this is why, because, that's the moment, that emotionally, intellectually, whatever, everybody leaned in like, ooh, what? What is happening? Because when you have those moments in the courtroom, if a jury is listening to a narrative that carefully, they're also learning and being persuaded by the speaker. And so that's why moments like this actually are the moments when audiences determine for themselves credibility, when audiences and juries determine for themselves whether or not there's a bias. And here's the thing interesting to unpack about that testimony, and you'll see even from his delivery and under cross-examination, what he's talking about is focused on the two brothers. He doesn't have a big narrative about what could have happened, and he doesn't want to talk very much about the actual incident of what happened, because he is trying to sell to an audience that he knows nothing about it. But what he can speak to are the underpinnings and credibility of the two brothers that are making the allegations against him, because that's the entirety of prosecution's case. So I think you'll just see more of a focus on him attacking the two brothers and for his team attacking what the brothers are saying than anything else, because that's the linchpin for determining the outcome of this case and whether or not he's going to be held accountable and found guilty by that jury.
Yes, the two brothers were the prosecution's star witnesses, but I mean, they did also call 5 Chicago police investigators, and we know Chicago PD is not really the most credible department. Your thoughts, David?
Well, I want to go back to that. I thought this was a very powerful piece of testimony here because it showed vulnerability on Jussie's part. Now you might say it's calculated vulnerability, because that's one of the oldest tricks in the book, is to admit or reveal something about yourself that you normally wouldn't want to and maybe isn't flattering. So this is the drug use, but you do that in an effort so then the jurors will believe that everything you say is truthful. Because that's what I was taking from this. Like, he's being very open about just using cocaine and marijuana like at this bathhouse. And then also by saying that he had a relationship with one of the brothers and it may or may not have been, sexual at times. I mean, that also kind of plays into the defense's narrative that this was a homophobic attack. And then it leads the jurors to make their own assumptions. I don't know if they're going to get into this. If maybe the brother had sexual identity issues and, regretted his relationship with Jussie, and possibly that was a motive for this. There's a whole host of things, but this is definitely a turning point in this case. And I think that a lot of the opinions are being made just based off of this. And, it comes down to whether they believe Jussie or whether they believe the brother over this particular point.
Paul, the prosecution started their cross-examination of the actor late this afternoon, and it's going to continue tomorrow morning. But prosecutors started their cross-examination by asking Smollett why he initially refused to hand over his cell phone records, whether he was concerned that it would show substantial communication with Bola. Smollett said that wasn't a factor, that he was more concerned about his privacy. Are you buying that?
I think that's credible. I mean, what celebrity do you know when you ask them, hey, let me see your phone, even in a situation like this? I'm telling you, I think that that is credible. If somebody wants to see my phone, I'm going to give a pause for a moment. My mama's not getting my phone until I think about it for a moment. And then you're talking about a situation like this, even though you've been attacked, like, what's the point of looking at my phone? I've been attacked. Why do you want to see my phone? I think that's the point that he should have been making. He didn't give it and sell it enough, in my opinion. I think that's a really credible response and one that would have been more believable. I wish that he had answered it a little bit more and had given a little bit more on that issue, because I think a lot of people would understand that, and I think a lot of people would have found it valid, and he could have been coached, rehearsed, trained, or prepared for that question ahead of time to be very articulate as to why he didn't want to give that phone beyond just the answer that he was giving, which I don't think covered it enough, that he's a celebrity and was concerned about his privacy. Bruh, you were concerned about more that was in that phone than just what happened to you a couple of hours ago, I believe, and that would have been a credible sale. That's what I wanted to hear. I do think it's believable, though, in final conclusion.
It would have been more believable for me if he didn't redact the exchanges between him and Bola alone. Had he redacted maybe some other numbers from other people, then yes, that explanation would have worked. David, Smollett said something I actually did believe, and that was on why he didn't call the police. He said, quote, "I'm a black man in America. I do not trust police." That I understand, and some of the jurors may as well. But besides the testimony from the two brothers, like I said, the prosecution, they called 5 investigators with Chicago PD. Should the defense be honing in on them as well, not just trying to chip away at the credibility of these two brothers, but also the credibility of the investigators in the department as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, you raise a very good point, and I also think that was one of the feelings here in Chicago. And this goes again to the defense narrative that they were just looking to get him any way that they could. Because again, this case has been dropped and then picked back up. They brought in Dan Webb, who is a very famous prosecutor here, was with the district attorney's office, and he's special prosecutor. And now all of a sudden, hey, you know, we found some stuff and we're going to bring this case forward. So I think that will play with a lot of the jurors, especially here in Chicago, and especially, you know, in this given climate. There is some distrust of police officers. And then I want to go back and touch on something you said also about discrediting the brothers. One of the things I noticed about Jussie's testimony that sticks out to me is every time he mentions the drug use. And who does he get the drugs from? He gets it from one of the brothers. You better believe the jury's paying attention every time that he says that. In each of those instances, it shows that the brother, he has no problem, you know, obtaining illegal drugs, illegal substances. However, Jussie's got to be careful because it also flips the other way. It shows that Jussie has no problem, you know, using illegal substances, provided that somebody else does it for him. So he has no problem breaking the law or engaging in criminal acts, provided somebody else does it for him. For, like, for example, allegedly fake beating him up.
Good point. Good point. Guys, I could talk about this all night, but I'm running out of time. Paul Henderson, David Otunga, thank you both for joining me tonight. Appreciate you.